Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. This is just a quick video. I just want to pick up on the, well, not the problem, but what I observed with the Vander bucket. Now, I might not have made it as clear as it should have been in the video. The circumstances were that the water in the Vander bucket was changed. So it was pure RO water, nothing added. So there's nothing in it, it was just RO water. And I know that my RO water has a TDS of around 11 or 12 and a neutral pH of 7. Yeah? Well, that water was left for nearly 3 days without adding anything to it. This is the bit that may not have become clear. Yeah? I didn't put any feed in it. So to all intents and purposes, when I came to add the feed nearly 3 days later, it should have still been pure RO water. Now, okay, I'd flushed a few plants in it, and there may have been a little bit of residual feed from a previous water that got in there, but given the volume of the water and the fact that the stuff goes in there is bare rooted in effect, it shouldn't have changed that much at all. And that's why I was surprised, because the level of feed that I add to the RO water, naturally, most fertilizers drop the pH, it naturally brings it down to 6.5. Depending on how strong the feed is, it might be 6.6, it might be 6.4, but it's around that mark. And 0.1, I'm not arguing over or fussing over. I just need it somewhere near it. I'm not that precise. But I was very surprised, because normally I just add the feed knowing what it's going to do to the pH. But the water had been standing for quite a bit longer than normal, and it's just something in the back of my mind thought, I'm just going to quickly check that pH. And at that point, so the RO water was left with nothing added to it for nearly 3 days. I added the feed and measured the pH at that point, and it read 6. Yeah? So something had happened to drop the pH of the water. So I got on the old internet and had a look round, and quite a bit of information from sort of laboratory information where RO water is used in its purest state, because that's what's required by the laboratories for certain things. And they were quite emphatically stating that RO water is hungry. It will try and grab hold and absorb anything it can find because it hasn't got anything in it. And that includes the air. Yeah? So it will absorb things from the air. And while I was at it, because you know what it's like when you're doing Google searches, all sorts of stuff comes up that's not relevant. But the oceans are absorbing CO2 from the air and other things as well. So water does, you know, do an exchange with the air. So anyway, so the pH was far lower than I expected. So my little querying mind thought, why has that happened? Well, it turns out that stuff, mainly CO2, if you have a look at the makeup of the air, yeah, there's lots of things in our air, and an awful lot of them are tiny, tiny, tiny little bits. If you have a look at the big stuff, yeah. So anyway, irrespective of which bit of the air got in there, it dramatically changed the pH. So I'll need to just monitor it. So today I just thought I'd have a look, because obviously I wanted to bring the pH back up to 6.5, so I artificially raised it to bring it back to where I wanted. I've just added a tiny little amount of baking soda in there. If you do try and use baking powder or baking soda as pH up, for goodness sake, don't go mad. I had the tiniest little bit on the end of my finger, yeah, and it took that from 6 to 6.5 in that volume of water, and it was just a tiny little bit. I just wetted my finger, dipped it in the pot, and in it went. Luckily I guessed it right. So what I want to do this morning is have a quick look, and what I'm after is, once I've added the feed, is there still exchanges going on that are dramatically affecting the pH? And the answer is not really. That's 6.5 something, yeah. So it hasn't changed much. I think when I actually put the pH up in here, I think it was actually registering 6.55. It's now saying 6.57, so very little change. I mean, you have to bear in mind that once the feed's in there and I start chucking plants in there, yeah, leaving them to soak, the plants are going to absorb stuff. Well, in the main, the plants are going to take it in bulk and then sort out which bits they need most and push it around the plant and all that sort of stuff. I'm not sure plants are clever enough to be able to think, right, I've got a nice balanced fertiliser here, but actually I'm growing quite a few new growths at the moment, so I'll absorb more of the nitrogen than I would normally do. If they're that clever, I'll be very surprised. At the end of the day, the roots are dry, they take on board the moisture they're given with whatever's in it, and then they sort out what they're going to do with it once it's inside the plant. That is very clever. Anyway, so I don't think I've got to worry. I just need to be aware that if I leave my water without putting the feed in it, the pH is going to change and it'll drop. Now that I know that, it's not a problem. Well, it never was a problem. I mean, I spent years growing orchids when I didn't even know what pH was. Yeah? I mean, for quite a while I was just chucking tap water on the plants. They didn't all die, you know, so you can worry a bit too much about these sorts of things. Anyway, so that's that out of the way. I hope that sort of cleared that up a bit. As I said, my worry was that the pH wasn't as expected, so I did a little bit of work to find out what could have affected it. I'm happy that I found out why, and it's easily dealt with. So I'll just have to double check the pH when I change the water and make sure it's set right. And once the feed's in there, it appears to remain pretty static. After a couple of days of use, I'll check it again. But I'm hoping that it just remains relatively constant now that the feed's in there, because it's not pure water anymore, it's got stuff in it. So that's not the same thing as RO water. That is a very strange phenomenon. For a start, there's no point putting that in RO water. They don't work because there's nothing to read. You get readings all over the flipping place if you put one of them in pure RO water. They just can't cope with it. They need something to grab hold of. Right, that's that out the way. And then if it's a cool evening tonight, we're going to have a bit of fun with that. I did say I was going to get one and try it. The bit I like on this one, no smell or visible deposits after use. I'll let you know. As I said, this has got a fuse in it that you light, and then the whole place is going to fill with smoke. But I want to do it in the evening so that it can be left overnight. Precautions are, I'll have to block that up. I'll just put a sheet of bubble wrap or something over that, stuck down with tape. I'll have to do the same with the inlet fan, which is going to be fun because that's difficult to get at, but it needs doing. If the smoke's going to escape out of the holes, it's not going to do its job properly. And all I've got to do is remember to the plan was to set the thermostat that turns that on down to about 10 degrees and then pull the plugs on the fan, because obviously coming in the door and doing that takes seconds. Faffing around with the actual thermostat is a pain, and I can only hold my breath so long. So the only other thing I've got to block up is where the electricity comes in. It's a hole drilled in the door frame, and I doubt if that's airtight, and obviously that lets air into the lounge. Now, I don't want whatever this smoky stuff is in the lounge where the people and the cats are. So that's got to be blocked up. That's easy enough to do. And it can stay blocked. I mean, it's only that the hole that was drilled is slightly larger than the cable that goes through it. I doubt if much would come through that hole, but I'd rather the amount was zero. So the only other thing to remember to do is to turn all the fans off. So turn off my air cleaner, throw the switch on the little computer fans, because that lot stays on 24/7. So I'll literally turn those off so they're not running. The air will be nice and still. And then light blue touch paper and run like I mean, basically these doors seal tight, so I don't have to worry about any smoke coming in through the doors. They've all got proper seals. You know, they're double glazed patio units. The idea being that in the winter you keep your heat in. Well, if there's an air exchange going on, it don't work, does it? So I'm confident the doors are airtight. There's going to be a few leaks in here, I'm sure. You know, there's going to be a few little gaps in places where the smoke will get out, but it's not going to be dramatic. And the smoky thing, it says it will do a standard 3 metre by 2 metre greenhouse. I think mine's a little bit bigger than that. I think mine's 3 by 2.5. But it should still do the job. It's near enough. I just want to see if it's sort of, you know, I know where the bugs are in here. I've got the ant problem. Yeah, I mean, look, there's one checking my thermostat at the moment. And this new growth on here, this is where they're congregating at the moment. There's an odd one here and there, but I mean, yesterday morning there were 5 on this new growth when I came in. None of them made it. But yeah, they are still getting in, and just killing them once doesn't stop them getting in again. But we'll see how it goes. Ants leave trails so that they can find the food source at the end of the trail. And the more ants that use it, the stronger the trail gets, so more ants use it. You see what I mean? Because there's a food source at the end. Until such time as the food source isn't there, they stop using the trail and it fades. Well, I'm hoping that the smoke in here is going to destroy their trails. So they won't know there's food in here. They'll have to start again, start from scratch. Flipping nuisance. Anyway, so we'll have some fun probably this evening, and I'll film that because it might be useful for other people. I mean, I can't recommend this as pest control because of the dangers. You know, you really got to watch what you're doing with this sort of stuff. It's incredibly poisonous. But once it disperses into the air and is no longer in a confined space, it just dissipates. So, you know, it's not a big deal. So we'll have a play with that this evening, and well, hopefully this evening. If it's a very warm evening and the sun's out in a clear sky, it's not going to cool down in here till quite late in the evening, and obviously the fans and everything are still required. So what I'm after is a cooler evening, you know, a cloudy evening when the temperature drops down, you know, earlier in the evening, and I can get on with it. And yeah, I mean, I remember my old house, the greenhouse I had there. I used to greenhouse smokes were common as muck in those days, you know, and the DIY stores sold them up on the shelves, big row of fireworks, you know, and they were perfectly acceptable in those days. And the greenhouse I had then needed 2. Yeah, so you've got a light one, and the fuse fizzes for a little bit, and then whoosh, the smoke comes out. And on several occasions I hadn't got the second one lit properly, and the first one actually fired. So you've got to take a deep breath and get out as quick as you can. Deep breath before the smoke, not after. And I remember once I turned round to escape the greenhouse and fell over my own feet. So I actually fell before I got to the door, and then I had to get up, and the smoke had filled that greenhouse before I could get out. Now, I was holding my breath, but that's the sort of thing that can go wrong. You know, if you've got a big area and you're trying to get 3 or 4 of these things going, you've got to get to the door. There's no messing about. You've got to get out. It'll take you down. So they need extreme caution. So we'll have a play with that. Yeah, because I'm filming it, I'll probably trip over and drop the camera or something. Yeah, I will be ultra careful. Well, you'll see me being careful. Yeah, that'll do. The videos I've been posting lately were actually filmed quite a bit before. There's not many fresh ones coming up, but this is a fresh one. I think it's Thursday today, if I haven't lost track. And this is Thursday morning, and it's that strange sound you can hear is actually rain on the roof. Not much, but it is actually spotting with rain out there. I hadn't noticed the sound until then, but the cat did come in and had a good shake in the kitchen, so obviously he'd got a little bit wet. Cats don't like getting wet normally. Yeah, so a few things going on. The other thing is my grow light, my freebie grow light, on the grounds that I do a review on it. That arrived yesterday afternoon, so I'll start doing the review on that. I'll have to film it in stages, and I'm still not. I think I'm going to post the stages as individual videos, but all the time while I'm dealing with that, I have to bear in mind I took it on conditions I'm going to do a proper review and post to YouTube. Yeah, so there will be a bit of planning involved as to, you know, how I do it and go about it. But part one is obviously just opening the box and having a look round and see what I've actually got, you know, and have a look at the quality of the unit and how easy it looks as though it's going to be to set up and everything. And then some point down the line, once I've worked out where the hell it's going to go, we'll have to set it up and give it a trial run, you know, attach it to a timer so that it comes on and goes off without me having to be here and all that sort of stuff. And then we can check light levels. I can use my DSLR camera. A lot of people don't stop and think about the quality of the light meters in cameras. It is absolutely superb. It has to be, or your pictures don't work, you know. So given that we're dealing with plants and the light levels hitting plants, all I've got to do with my DSLR is go out and effectively freeze either the aperture or the speed. Just lock it. Yeah, and then I can go outside on a sunny day, point the camera at the plants and take the reading, the one that's not locked, because that's the one that will go up and down. And then I can move to an area of plants outside again that's sort of in the shade and take another reading. And that will give me the difference between plants being lit up in the sun and plants not being lit up in the sun. That will give me the sort of range I ought to be working with. And then we can come and point the camera at the plants, you know, with the grow light off and then with the grow light on. And in theory, the light level with the grow light on at the distance appropriate should be somewhere between those outdoor plants, sunny and shade, should be somewhere in between the two. So that will give us a light level measurement. Then we can move it farther away from the plant, see how much it drops, and all that sort of stuff. So we can play around checking the light levels and stuff like that. I can't check the light spectrum. I just have to trust that it's okay, you know. And then we can do a final review at the end of it, and you know, go over. Apparently all the information about the grow light is actually on the website, so I don't think I'm going to get any instructions in the box, but we'll open it up and have a look, see what we've got. So it's not a very big box because it's a single light, it's a single unit, but they're designed in such a way that they can chain together. So you can have as many as you like, and they can be as close together or as far apart as you like. They've got links, cable links, and they've even worked out that if you've got a chain of lights, yeah, so say you've got 10 in a row, obviously they're joined together electrically. If one in the middle goes out, it leaves all the rest on, yeah. So, you know, a bit like Christmas tree lights. Sometimes the old lights you used to get, one bulb goes and the whole lot go out. Then you spend the next 2 days of Christmas trying to find the one that's gone. All good fun. Anyway, just a chatty one, and yeah, that RO water was a surprise. It's easily dealt with, it's not a big deal. But that's the first time that I've had the RO water in the Vander bucket for so long before adding the feed. That was the only difference. Under normal circumstances, that water would have been created late in day one, because obviously I put the RO unit above that outside and let it fill up, and then I take the water out with a jug and fill up my smaller containers. And once all my containers are full, I just let that fill up and then bring it in here. And that's, by then, it's normally evening time. And then the next day, the plants would get flushed, yeah? And give them a slop round and a flush in the clean RO water. And I normally mix up the feed then and add it ready for the next day. Yeah, so it's not left as RO water very long, but this time it was. That's the difference. And it did seem to have an effect. So now that I know, I can just keep my eye on it. Not a big deal. Right, see you next time. Oh, there was something what was it? Oh, one of my Tolumnias, one of the rescue Tolumnias. Which one is it? This one here. This is the one, if you've looked at my videos where I've looked at the Tolumnias, this is the one I've said has been struggling for ages. It was a deep purple colour, it had no roots, and the last time we looked I said, oh look, there's some new growths coming. Well, those new growths, there's one round the back, and it's got a spike. That's unbelievable. I'm not sure I should leave that on there. The chances are that's only going to have one or maybe two buds on it. So, but it is growing some roots now. Roots are getting right down through the moss, and we've got the new growth up the middle of the plant pushing on nicely, and two more round the front. So he's rescued and is going to have a go at blooming, and that is Jarrah Flyer Red Butterfly. Providing that's in focus, you can see a picture of what it's expected to be like. Yeah, but we've got a spike. That's my only Tolumnia spike at the moment, and that's on the weakest plant I've got. Strange things. I mean, they all live up here now because there's no spikes on any of them, and they're all back up, you know, where I like to keep them. So they're all growing on nicely now. I mean, the species one at the end, I think it's got 4 new growths on it. This one's got 2 or 3. This one had hardly any roots. Well, it's chucking them out now, complete with new growths. This one's got new growth here and several up here. They're all coming on. Even this little miniature now is absolutely smothered. The mount with roots. That's all this year's roots. That had hardly any. I mean, that is a miniature. That one doesn't grow very large. And all of the Tolumnias have got a very slight purple tinge, which means they're about spot on. If they go completely deep purple, you might be overcooking the light a bit. If they stay mainly green with some purple tinges, you've probably got the light about right. That's the way I look at it. Now in the winter, my Tolumnias will probably all turn green again, because although they might be getting good light, they don't get it for very long because of our silly short days. So I don't think that I did spot another spike yesterday, and I've forgotten what it was, where it was, who it was, something. Oh, I'll get to it eventually. I had a busy day yesterday. I watered absolutely everything, every single plant. So I mixed up the big load of feed that was in the video, and I used that for my normal pots. And I'd only just started doing the holy clay pots when it ran out, so I mixed up a bit more. Mixed up far too much for the holy clay pots, so I then did the mounts as well to use it up. And then when it was all gone, I mixed up another amount with a much lower level of feed, and did all the shady ones, shady characters, as they get much lower levels of feed. So yeah, every single thing in here got watered. I even did the air plants, and I even did the Spanish moss. So literally everything. So do you know what I'm watering today? Absolutely nothing. A real lazy day today. I'm not even going to water the mounts. If we're going to have a dull day, the mounts didn't get watered till about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, because I didn't do it all in one go. I'd have been absolutely cream crackered. I did it in bits. You know, I did a couple of shelves and then took a break. Did some other things, had a coffee, came back in and had another go. And it was a mixture of dull and cloudy yesterday, so quite a bit of the work I did in here was without the fans on, which is nice. But yeah, literally absolutely everything yesterday, and it did take, you know, most of the day, but it's a one-off. I very rarely water everything at one go, but yeah. And hopefully now we've lost that intense heat, so the watering cycle will come round less frequently, less workload, more enjoyable, because that was quite hard work yesterday. Anyway, I've got a feeling that's the first time I've ever done that as well. Literally absolutely everything in the grow room in one day. That's not how it normally works, because the pots come round to needing watering again at different times. So, you know, like one day I may do this lot, and the next day I'll do the ordinary pots, and then I might do the holy clay pots separately, and the mounts get slotted in between. So there's very rarely a time when they all come round together like that. You know, it's just how it happened. So anyway, chatty one, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.